Morning, grade 4. So I'm asking you to do some work on Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, and I didn't finish reading chapter 2 to you, and you're going to need it in order to do some of the questions. So I'm going to finish chapter 2. You're going to see we're going to meet together first. We're going to talk things through. I'm going to catch you up on what I read up to this point, and now I'm going to finish the chapter for you. All right, so we'll pick up where we left off the last time. And it had been Fudgy's bedtime because he was being a bit of a bothersome child at that point, I guess. And his dad said, "Isn't it Fudgy's bedtime?" "Oh yes, I think it is," my mother said, scooping him up. "Say goodnight, Fudgy." "Good night, Fudgy," my brother said, waving at us. Fudge was supposed to fall asleep before we sat down to dinner, but just in case, my mother put a million little toys in his crib to keep him busy. I don't know who my mother thought she was fooling, because we all know that Fudge can climb out of his crib any old time he wants to. He stayed away until we were in the middle of our roast beef. Then he came in carrying Dribble's bowl. Remember, he's not allowed to touch it, but he is now holding the bowl that has the turtle. He walked right up to Mrs. Yarby. He thought she was his new friend. "See," he said, holding Dribble under her nose. "See, Dribble?" Mrs. Yarby shrieked, "Oh, I can't stand reptiles. Get that thing away from me." Fudge looked disappointed, so he showed Dribble to Mr. Yarby. "See," he said. "Hatcher," Mr. Yarby boomed. "Make him get that thing out of here." I wondered why Mr. Yarby called my father Hatcher. Didn't he know his first name was Warren? And I didn't like the way Mr. and Mrs. Yarby both called Dribble a thing. I jumped up. "Give him to me," I told Fudge. I took Dribble and his bowl and marched into my room. I inspected my turtle all over. He seemed all right. I didn't want to make a big scene in front of our company, but I was mad. I mean, really mad. That kid knows he's not allowed to touch my turtle. "Peter," my father called, "come and finish your dinner." When I got back to the table, I heard Mrs. Yarby say, "It must be interesting to have children. We never had any ourselves." "But if we did," Mr. Yarby told my father, "we teach them some manners. I'm a firm believer in old-fashioned good manners." "So are we, Howard," my father said in a weak voice. I thought Mr. Yarby had a lot of nerve to hint that we had no manners. Didn't I pretend to like their dumb old picture dictionary? If that isn't good manners, then I don't know what is. My mother excused herself and carried Fudge back to my room. I guess she put him into his crib again. I hope she told him to keep his hands off my things. We didn't hear from him again until dessert. Just as my mother was pouring the coffee, he ran in wearing my rubber gorilla mask from last Halloween. It's a very real-looking mask. I guess that's why Mrs. Yarby screamed so loud. If she hadn't made so much noise, my mother probably wouldn't have spilled the coffee all over the floor. My father grabbed Fudge and pulled the gorilla mask off him. "That's not funny, Fudge," he said. "Funny," Fudge laughed. "Funny, funny, funny, Fudgy." "Yes, sir, Hatcher," Mr. Yarby said. "Old-fashioned manners." By that time, I'm sure my father was sorry the Yarbys weren't staying at a hotel. I finally got to bed at 10. Fudge was in his crib, slurping away. I thought I'd never fall asleep, but I guess I did. I woke up once when Fudge started babbling. Babbling is baby talk. He was saying, "Booba, mumma, mumma, bubba, bubba, hushy." Whatever that means. I didn't even get scared. I just whispered, "Shut up." And he did. Early the next morning, I felt something funny on my arm. At first, I didn't wake up. I just felt this little tickle. I thought it was part of my dream. But then I had the feeling somebody was staring at me, so I opened my eyes. Oh boy. Fudge was standing over me and Dribble was crawling around on my arm. I guess Fudge could tell I was about ready to kill him because he bent down and kissed me. That's what he does when my mother is angry at him. He thinks nobody can resist him when he makes himself so lovable. And a lot of times it works with my mother, but not with me. I jumped up, put Dribble back into his bowl, and smacked Fudge on his backside. Hard. His backside is his bum. He yelled. My father came running into my room. He was still in his pajamas. He whispered, "What's going on in here?" I pointed at Fudge, and he pointed at me. My father picked up my brother and carried him off. "Go back to sleep, Peter," he said. "It's only 6 o'clock in the morning." I fell asleep for another hour, then woke up to an awful noise. It was Fudge playing with his new train. It woke up everybody, including the Yarbys. But this time, there was nobody they could blame. They were the ones who gave Fudge the train in the first place. Breakfast was a very quiet affair. Nobody had much to say. Mr. Yarby drank 2 glasses of Juicy O. Then he told my father that he and Mrs. Yarby had their suitcase packed. They were leaving for a hotel as soon as breakfast was over. My father said he understood, that the apartment was too small for so many people. My mother didn't say anything. When Mr. Yarby went into Fudge's bedroom to pick up his suitcase, his voice boomed, "Hatcher!" When Mr. Yarby went into... My father ran toward the bedroom. My mother and Mrs. Yarby followed him. I followed them. When we got there, we saw Fudge sitting on the Yarby suitcase. He had decorated it with 100 green stamps, the kind my mother gets at the supermarket, because way back when, people used green stamps instead of how you can use, like at the gas station or anything else where you collect points and then you can use them to buy things. People used to have green stamps to do the same kind of thing. "See," Fudge said. "See? Pretty." He laughed. Nobody else did. Then he licked the last green stamp and stuck it right in the middle of the suitcase. "All gone," Fudge sang, holding up his hands. It took my mother half an hour to peel off her trading stamps and clean up the Yarby suitcase. The next week, my father came home from the office and collected all the cans of Juicy O in our house. He dumped them into the garbage. My mother felt bad that my father had lost such an important account. But my father told her not to worry. Juicy O wasn't selling very well at the stores. Nobody seemed to like the combination of oranges, grapefruits, pineapples, pears, and bananas in a juice. "You know, Dad," I said, "I only drank Juicy O to be polite. I really hated it." "You know something funny, Peter?" my father said. "I thought it was pretty bad myself." And that's the end of chapter 2. So listen, and it just gets better from there.